Dive in with us today into the life of a man who changed the course of history, John Calvin. In the tapestry of history, there are many figures that loom large, casting long shadows that reach into our modern times. One such figure is John Calvin, a man whose influence has been felt in many areas of our world, from religion to politics and even to education. Born in France in the early 16th century, Calvin was a central player in the Protestant Reformation, a transformative period in the history of Christianity that forever altered the religious landscape of Europe and beyond. A theologian, pastor, and reformer, Calvin's teachings and writings became the bedrock of Reformed Christianity, a branch of Protestantism that continues to thrive and evolve to this day. His magnum opus, The Institutes of the Christian Religion, is still widely read and studied not only for its theological insights, but also for its profound influence on Western thought and culture. Its principles have seeped into the fabric of many societies, shaping laws, influencing political structures, and guiding ethical norms and values. Calvin's role in the Reformation was not just as a thinker, but also as a doer. His work in Geneva, where he served as a spiritual leader for over 2 decades, created a model of church governance and community life that has been replicated in many parts of the world. His vision of a society governed by moral and ethical principles, undergirded by a strong sense of community responsibility, continues to inspire and challenge us. But the influence of John Calvin is not confined to the past. His ideas continue to resonate, sparking debates and inspiring new interpretations. His vision of a faith that is intellectually rigorous, morally accountable, and socially engaged remains a powerful catalyst for reformation in our own time. So who was this man that left such an indelible mark on history? Let's uncover his story. Born in 1509 in Noyon, France, John Calvin's journey began. This boy, born to Gerard Calvin, a man of the cloth, and his wife Jeanne, was destined to leave an indelible mark on the world. From a young age, Calvin's father envisioned a religious career for his son and ensured he received a thorough education. Calvin was sent to the University of Paris at the tender age of 14, where he studied philosophy and the classics. His mind was a sponge, soaking up the knowledge and wisdom of the ancient world. Yet, his father's sudden death led to a pivotal change in his academic pursuits. Calvin, now free from his father's expectations, chose to study law at Orléans and Bourges, becoming a master of the subject. But the world of law could not hold his interest for long. His heart was elsewhere, in the spiritual and theological questions that had fascinated him since his time in Paris. It was during this period that Calvin experienced what he later described as a sudden conversion. He turned his back on Catholicism, his birth religion, and embraced Protestantism, a faith that was rapidly spreading across Europe. Embracing Protestantism, however, was not a decision taken lightly. The 16th century was a time of religious turmoil, with the Catholic Church wielding significant power. Protestants were often persecuted, and their faith was considered heretical. Calvin's conversion was a courageous act, one that put his life in danger. His decision to leave France was not one of fear, but of pragmatism. Calvin realized that his voice, his teachings, would be silenced if he remained in France. So he left, seeking refuge in Basel, Switzerland, a city known for its tolerance towards Protestants. Here he began to write, to share his thoughts and ideas with the world. His journey had just begun, and little did he know he was to become one of the most influential figures of his time. The early years of John Calvin, a boy from Noyon, France, set the stage for a life that would reshape the landscape of Christianity and leave a lasting legacy. Geneva, a city that would become synonymous with Calvin, was his next destination. It was in the year 1536 that the young French reformer John Calvin set foot in Geneva for the first time. Geneva was a city in flux, caught between the old Catholic order and the new Protestant movement. Calvin was initially welcomed, but his strict moral code and insistence on church discipline led to his expulsion just 2 years later, in 1538. But the story doesn't end there. Calvin's absence was felt deeply, and by 1541 the city council invited him back to Geneva. This time Calvin was determined to transform the city into a model Christian community. He introduced a series of reforms that would change the face of Geneva, turning it into a theocratic state where church and state were intertwined. Calvin held the belief that all aspects of life, including politics and economy, should be guided by the Word of God. To this end, he set up a system of church government that included pastors, teachers, elders, and deacons, each with their own specific roles. He also established the Geneva Academy, which became a center for Protestant scholarship. But perhaps Calvin's most enduring contribution to Geneva, and indeed to the world, was his magnum opus, The Institutes of the Christian Religion. Published in 1536 and continuously expanded and revised throughout his life, The Institutes was a comprehensive exposition of Protestant theology. It was a work of deep intellectual rigor, marked by its systematic approach and its clear, lucid style. The Institutes became a cornerstone of Reformed theology and played a key role in spreading Calvin's ideas across Europe and beyond. In Geneva, Calvin had not only found a home, but also a platform from which to disseminate his revolutionary ideas. His influence on the city was so profound that Geneva came to be known as the Protestant Rome. In Geneva, Calvin had found his calling and had begun to make his mark. Calvin's influence didn't end with his death in 1564. His teachings, steeped in fervor and intellectual rigor, transcended the confines of his earthly life, spreading far and wide, taking root in the hearts and minds of many, and giving birth to what we now know as Calvinism. Calvin's theological ideas, with their emphasis on the absolute sovereignty of God and the doctrine of predestination, found a receptive audience. From France to the Netherlands, Scotland to the New World, the seed of Calvin's teachings was sown, growing into a formidable movement that would significantly reshape the religious landscape. But the legacy of Calvin is not confined to the realm of theology. His influence seeped into the fabric of society, permeating various aspects like economics, politics, and culture. Calvin's ethical teachings, which espoused hard work, thrift, and self-discipline, laid the groundwork for what sociologist Max Weber would later call the Protestant work ethic, a cornerstone of modern capitalism. In politics, Calvinism played a pivotal role in shaping democratic principles. The Presbyterian church government, which Calvin formulated and advocated for, was one of the earliest systems that promoted a form of checks and balances. This system of governance, where power was not concentrated in the hands of a few, but distributed among many, was a precursor to modern democratic institutions. Culturally, Calvinism's emphasis on literacy to ensure that individuals could read the Bible for themselves significantly contributed to an increase in literacy rates. This fostered a culture of education and intellectualism that remains a hallmark of Calvinistic societies to this day. The legacy of John Calvin is a testament to the enduring power of ideas. His teachings, born out of a deep conviction and unwavering faith, have transcended time and geography, shaping not only the course of religious thought, but also the economic, political, and cultural landscape of our world. John Calvin, a man of faith and intellect, left a legacy that continues to shape our world. His influence, like the ripples from a stone thrown into a pond, continues to be felt, reminding us of the enduring power of ideas and the indelible impact of one man's conviction. Reflecting on Calvin's life, we see a man whose beliefs forever changed the world. Born to a simple French family, John Calvin was destined for a life intertwined with faith, education, and formidable change. His early years were marked by rigorous study, shaping him into a scholar of notable prestige. His journey led him to Geneva, where he penned The Institutes, a seminal work that would become a cornerstone of Protestant theology. His teachings and doctrines, often controversial, ignited a religious revolution, setting the stage for the Reformation. The legacy he left behind is monumental. His impact on religious thought and practice still resonates today, influencing modern Christianity in profound ways. His life is a testament to the power of faith and the resilience of the human spirit. From a simple French boy to a leading figure of the Reformation, John Calvin's life is a testament to the power of faith and the impact of the individual. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and join us for more historical explorations.